With the New York City mayoral election hurtling towards its conclusion, insurgent candidate and Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani went up against Republican Curtis Sliwa and Democrat-turned-independent Andrew Cuomo in the last televised debate, and sparks flew between all three candidates. First up was a heated exchange over Mamdani's flagship policy of freezing the rent for New York City's rent-stabilized tenants.
Zohran said the tenant doesn't have to pay more rent, but we're going to cover the landlord's costs. No, you can't do both, and that's not what happened. We did freeze the rent with de Blasio. We lost units because the landlords took them off the market because you weren't covering their costs. The reason the Rent Guidelines Board went up after the freeze was because you had to make up for all the backlog of costs. And this, I'm going to freeze the rent. People think it applies to all of them. No, just the 25% of the units that are rent stabilized. And by the way, it's all BS because the mayor doesn't have the power to do it anyway. The Rent Guidelines Board does, and he doesn't control the Rent Guidelines Board. So nothing is going to happen. It's all this. It's just more political blather.
Mr. Mamdani, you can respond.
If you want a candidate for mayor who tells you everything that he cannot do, then Andrew Cuomo should be your choice. If you want a candidate for mayor who will use every tool at their disposal, including the 9 appointees at the Rent Guidelines Board, all of whom are appointed by the mayor, then I am the candidate for you.
But what if the costs for the landlord goes up? Oh, heavens no, someone call the police. I mean, at the end of the day, landlords are already getting somebody else to pay their mortgage for them. I really do not care if they don't make an overall profit outside of the free house that their tenant is buying them. I really do not have any concern. And again, Mamdani's response was perfect, insofar as there is so many things that Andrew Cuomo thinks are just beyond the scope of what a mayor can or can't do because he is fundamentally bought out by so many important capitalist lobby groups, such as the landlord lobby, for example. And the only way of getting actual policy that fights for working people is to have somebody who doesn't have vested interests like Mamdani. Next up, Cuomo again went on the attack, this time over Mamdani's opposition to Israel's genocide in Gaza, which caused 650 rabbis to sign a letter denouncing Mamdani's candidacy.
You won't denounce globalize the intifada, which means kill Jews. There's unprecedented fear in New York. It was not several rabbis, Errol. It was 650 rabbis who signed the letter, not several.
Let me ask you a related question, Mr. Cuomo. Many New Yorkers have serious grievances with Israel and the way the Israeli government under Benjamin Netanyahu has conducted the war in Gaza and expanded settlements in the West Bank. What would you say to and how would you handle New Yorkers who are in the streets, if you were mayor, protesting the actions of the Netanyahu government?
Fine. That's your right. Protest, demonstrate, disagree. God bless America. God bless New York City. And there is no doubt that there's two sides on what's going on and the passions are very high. That doesn't justify anti-Semitic behavior in New York. It doesn't justify having a Jewish population that feels unprotected in New York. It doesn't justify leaders who stoke the flames of hatred against Jewish people, which is what Zohran does, in my opinion.
And even Curtis Sliwa went on the attack against Mamdani over his support for Palestine.
Zohran, this is personal for me. I know you are under threat. The mother of my 2 youngest sons who are raised Jewish, Melinda Katz, is prosecuting this person who came up and tried to do you harm. But let me speak on behalf of my 2 sons. When they've heard some of the statements you've made, like in support of global jihad, and I hear some people out there saying the Jews, their time is due, which means the same thing. They're frightened, they're scared. They view you as the arsonist who fanned the flames of anti-Semitism. They cannot suddenly accept the fact that you're coming in like a firefighter and you're going to put out these flames. You've got a lot of explaining to do, a lot of apologizing to do. My sons are afraid. Their family, their friends, many in the Jewish community are concerned if you become mayor because they don't think when anti-Semitism rears its ugly head, which it's now doing more than ever before, that you will have the ability to come in and put out those flames of hate.
Okay. Yeah, you can.
I think there is room for disagreement on many positions and many policies, but I also want to correct the record. I have never, not once, spoken in support of global jihad. That is not something that I have said, and that continues to be ascribed to me, and frankly, I think much of it has to do with the fact that I am the first Muslim candidate to be on the precipice of winning this election. Now, all the same, Curtis, I do still want to be the mayor that will keep your sons safe, that will keep every single New Yorker safe. And it is my job to not only deliver on that commitment, but also to ensure that New Yorkers feel it every single day that they live in this city.
So I'll tackle those claims in reverse order. First of all, he's right. He has never, ever talked about global jihad. That has come out of complete nowhere. That is from left field. And as far as I can see, Mamdani is absolutely right to ascribe it to Islamophobia. It's the only way that you can think. You look at a Muslim man and go, well, this guy supports jihad. Second of all, when it comes for Jewish people being scared about Mamdani's candidacy, he is currently polling first amongst Jewish New Yorkers. So that kind of puts paid to that idea that they're trying to smear him with over his support for Palestine and the things that he said. Speaking of which, one of the things that he's being pilloried by Cuomo, therefore, is this idea that he has not condemned the phrase global intifada. He's never said it himself, he just doesn't personally condemn it. And Andrew Cuomo says that it means kill Jews, which it doesn't. It fundamentally does not. During the first intifada, the people of Palestine engaged in non-violent direct action, strikes, boycotts, protests, exactly the same things, exactly the same tactics that were used in the boycott campaign against apartheid South Africa that brought down the apartheid regime there. It is because of the first intifada that we had the Oslo Accords. It was the first time, because of the heavy-handed nature of Israel's brutal repression of that non-violent resistance, that we actually got some form of sympathy for the Palestinian people. It was the first point at which there was Western sympathy for the Palestinians broadly that led to the Oslo Accords, right? Global intifada is about resistance. It's about resistance to Israel, its illegal apartheid regime, and its illegal occupation of the Palestinian people. That is fundamentally it, right? Global intifada doesn't need to be condemned. Global intifada is a moral necessity, right? Just because people did bad things during the second intifada doesn't mean that the fundamental thing, which intifada is what it means, which is to shake off, right, is a bad thing. It is fundamentally a good thing to resist apartheid, to resist genocide, and to resist illegal occupation. The most heated moment of the night came during a free-form cross-examination from the candidates, where Zohran dropped this nuclear payload on Andrew Cuomo.
Mr. Cuomo, in 2021, 13 different women who worked in your administration credibly accused you of sexual harassment. Since then, you have spent more than $20 million in taxpayer funds to defend yourself, all while describing these allegations as entirely political. You have even gone so far as to legally go after these women. One of those women, Charlotte Bennett, is here in the audience this evening. You sought to access her private gynecological records. She cannot speak up for herself because you lodged a defamation case against her. I, however, can speak. What do you say to the 13 women that you sexually harassed?
If you want to be in government, then you have to be serious and mature. There were allegations of sexual harassment. They were then went to 5 district attorneys, fully litigated for 4 years. The cases were dropped, right? You know that as a fact. So everything you just stated, you just said was a misstatement, which we're accustomed to from you.
Stated was a misstatement?
Yes, because the cases were dropped. That's what happened. And my question to you, you still didn't answer, why won't you say BDS against Uganda for saying gays should be imprisoned for being gay? Okay. You have no problem with BDS against Israel, but no BDS for Uganda.
A pretty bizarre and ridiculous reaction from Cuomo there. Oh, you're bringing up the credible accusations of sexual harassment against me. You need to be mature and serious. I mean, this is the level to which that we take sexual harassment of women broadly in the Anglosphere, the level of seriousness that we treat it with, Really kind of damning indictment on Cuomo there. No apology, no nothing. And second of all, right? Homophobia is bad. Imprisoning gay people obviously is bad. No one is going to dispute this in terms of Uganda, right? Is it worse than genocide, Andrew? Is it worse than genocide? I don't think so. It seems that Andrew Cuomo was pretty rattled by Zohran in that debate. So much so, in fact, that his team posted something absolutely outrageous on social media. Take a look at this in its full majesty.
Zohran Mamdani's opponents want you to believe he's an inexperienced radical whose policies will make New York City more dangerous. But what do his actual supporters think?
Mamdani isn't crazy.
He's just trying to even the playing field.
Give everyone a fair shot. Sure, he said multiple times we need to defund the police, but that was just a metaphor.
And yes, he did say crime is a social construct, but that was also a metaphor.
His main backer, the Democratic Socialists' ideas are common sense, such as
Decriminalizing misdemeanors, like shoplifting.
third-degree assault, trespassing, prostitution,
And drunk driving.
With plans to decriminalize all drugs, Mamdani will be a job creator for drug dealers.
Instead of helping us homeless get off the streets and into the mental health facilities we need, he wants to give us safe injection sites to do crack and let us sleep in subway carts.
These are actual policies Mamdani and the DSA want to implement on day one.
When a woman's being domestically abused, she finally won't have to deal with some pesky cop to arrest the abuser, but now a social worker to help, kumbaya the situation.
Breathe in, breathe out.
Mamdani is finally lowering jail sentences.
guilty!
But Mamdani says you're free to go.
Who cares if legalizing prostitution statistically leads to an increase for sex trafficking of women and young girls by 70%?
You can't have safety without equality.
For unlawful abiding citizens like us, globalize the intifada.
I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal.
I'm a criminal.
Yep. I'm a criminal.
For Zohran. For Zohran Mamdani.
I didn't have a real job until I was 30, but sure, give me the keys to the city. What's the worst that can happen?
Paid for by Cuomo for NYC.
Now, if we ignore the fact that it's awful AI slop where a guy tries to set fire to his own hands for 1 second, some of the claims there are wild. His campaign platform doesn't say anything about decriminalizing misdemeanors. Decriminalizing drugs and sex work actually helps them trapped by the system to being able to seek help rather than pushing them into the black market, which is more dangerous. And it is explicit Mamdani policy to keep police funding as it is and not to defund it. In the case of domestic violence, Mamdani's plan to create a Department of Community Safety is designed to replace police visits with social workers for non-violent mental health calls. He even mentioned it during the debate, that there should be a risk assessor to determine the right course of action on a case-by-case basis. But outside of policy concerns, this video is dripping in racism. Imagine the prompts you'd have to put in to get black man shoplifting in a kafir or Zohran Mamdani eating rice with his hands, which is something the MAGA right have been mocking him for doing on social media. Real kind of gutter-level racist stuff here because eating rice with your hands is perfectly normal. But what else should we expect from a man who willingly offered to defend the genocidal Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu against the ICC charges of crimes against humanity? And if that wasn't bad enough, we've had another revelation that reveals just how depraved Cuomo really is. Cuomo talking to a conservative radio host, Sid Rosenberg, this morning. God forbid another 9/11. Can you imagine Mamdani in the seat? Cuomo asks. He'd be cheering, Rosenberg says. Cuomo paused and chuckled before saying, that's another problem. There you have it. Cuomo essentially agreeing with the implication that Mamdani is a terrorist sympathizer. One can only assume why he might think such a thing. Ash, what did you make of this debate? And what does that AI video say about the kind of audience that Cuomo is trying to appeal to?
The thing about Andrew Cuomo is that he is a uniquely discredited candidate. So it doesn't surprise me that he's coming out with lowest common denominator, racist lies and smears. I mean, it doesn't surprise me about him at all. But what is shocking to me is that the establishment and big money interests couldn't find a better vehicle for their political ambition and program than a man who had to step down in disgrace and who's been dogged by sexual harassment allegations. I think there is a level of desperation to the way in which the attack lines on Zohran Mamdani have operated. So they've tried to do, not just soft but tacitly encouraging of crime, anti-Semite, Muslim, why do you eat rice with your hands? That's the best they've got. And the thing is that it doesn't appear to be working, because the thing that you know about Cuomo is serial sexual harasser, allegedly. Thing you know about Curtis Sliwa is, I was shot 5 times by John Gotti. And the thing you know about Zohran Mamdani is like, okay, you're being called an anti-Semite, but your program of free bus travel, universal childcare, and rent controls, that really cuts through. So what you have is 3 candidates, but only one of them is talking about the kind of bread and butter material issues that New Yorkers are having to contend with. And, that's why Zohran Mamdani looks like the favorite to win. That's not to say that there aren't going to be significant obstacles and difficulties for Zohran Mamdani in office. I mean, thinking about the entrenched interests and the various levels of the New York municipality that they find themselves embedded in, he's going to have to deal with all of those things. Some of that will be direct confrontation, some of it will involve some negotiation, and of course all politicians, even very smiley charming ones like Zohran Mamdani, should be put under scrutiny and pressure. But these clowns, clearly not the ones to do it.